Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pathway to Knowledge. Elena's here with me, and it's going to be another good one that we've come up with. It's going to be pretty eclectic tonight. We're going to channel, first of all, we're going to talk to Thomas Jefferson, the individual that wrote the Declaration of Independence. Then we'll talk to Abraham Lincoln, the individual that got us through the Civil War, George Patton, the great general of World War II, because I'm interested in hearing what he has to say about our military. And then we're going to finish up with Ronald Reagan. He's, as you know, the president that was around when right after the Iranians started their revolution, and the Iranians were afraid of him. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say. So Elena, if you are ready, let's get her going.
Set. Let's start with President Jefferson. Welcome, President Jefferson. So, President Jefferson, what do you think of the country as it exists in present day?
Well, keep in mind this. I was around before the country existed. So I saw what it was like when it was under British rule. Today, the United States is not under risk of being under any foreign rule. So that's much different. But you do have a lot of very powerful enemies. You have China, you have Russia, you have Iran, North Korea. These are all pretty good sized enemies that you have to worry about. It's a far different world, obviously, than what I lived in. And I chose not to reincarnate into this world because I knew it was going to be very difficult. Anybody that is president better know what's going on, because with AI today, the computer assistants can do things and set up incidents that you will never imagine could take place. So as we sit and watch from over here, we do definitely worry about what is taking place with what you're referring to as artificial intelligence. We are seeing some of the miracles, so-called miracles, that the AI can do. But we're also seeing the potential for danger and risk. So it is a far different country. It is right now the entire world is walking through quicksand. And there's danger and risk everywhere. So your leaders are going to have to be very aware. They're going to have to know what's going on. And they better be very careful, because the dangers are beyond anything they ever conceived of. You saw what could happen with a virus when you had COVID, how dangerous that was to the world. So if there are super viruses that exist that no one can heal, so if some fool decides they're going to try one of those, or it breaks loose out of a laboratory, there can be many, many problems that you haven't conceived of at this time. So let me just say that the world is a very dangerous place.
You were the main author of the Declaration of Independence. What do you think of the freedoms available to the citizens of the United States today?
I think that they are actually being radically diminished. If you look at things like inflation diminishes the rights of the individuals with lower income because they're not free to do what they would wish to do. Look at your taxation laws. Your taxes are taking a large percentage of the income of people, and that restricts their freedom on what they can do. Take a look at your medical system. There are many that cannot afford to have medical services. So depends how you look at things. Yes, the United States, the people there have more freedoms than they do anywhere else in the world. But there are many things that are eating away at these individual freedoms. There are people that want to turn to socialism because they think that freebies will work for them. Communism. You have people in the United States that are running for some of your highest offices in government that believe in communism. Look at your mayor of New York City. We would have run him out of town on a rail in my day. So you have individuals that are in politics that are eating away at your personal freedoms. Anytime that you go away from a democracy, you're going away from a system where individual freedoms have at least a chance to exist.
You are a proponent of neutral commerce and open maritime trade. What is your opinion of what is taking place in Iran today?
I think it is terrible. Iran, this country of Iran, is controlling the world economy. They have this narrow passage of waterway, and they are closing it to the world. And it just so happens that most of the oil reserves are in that area of the world. So it is incredibly important that freedom of the seas is a concept that continues. As long as the world relies on ship materials, it's very, very important that the waterways remain free and that you cannot have tolls on those waterways. Now, I find it very sad that the European countries do not become involved in assuring free shipping in that area of the world, because they're the ones that will pay the penalties for it. Whether that waterway that Iran has is open or closed, in actuality means very little to the United States. And the refiners in the United States have actually prospered with the waterway closed. Yet we're carrying the whole burden. So I would definitely consider, if I was president, letting it up to the European countries. If they did not want to get involved, then I would allow it to close.
How would you handle Russia and China?
First of all, I would stop trading with them. When you allow trade with China, you are simply strengthening your enemy. So as long as you trade with countries that are your enemies, you're supporting them. I would put every sanction that I could find on Russia. They have a relatively slow economy. I would support Ukraine because they are doing the work of the United States over there. They are weakening Russia by destroying their refining capabilities. So I would support the old saying that friends of my enemies are not my friend. So I would support anyone that is going against the countries that are trying to destroy you. It only makes sense.
What would be your main advice that you would give to President Trump at this point?
I would tell him that he has to totally understand who his enemies are. His true enemies are China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. All of the other countries are relatively insignificant. So he has to do everything to slow economically all of those countries. North Korea, you have a madman in charge of that country, and he's got a lot of very powerful weapons. He's sending soldiers to fight the Ukraine. So you must support your friends. You must support those individuals and countries who are fighting your enemies.
What is your opinion of our modern Congress and Supreme Court?
I actually think your Supreme Court is not doing a bad job. It has a few weak people on it that should not be there. But there are some very good legal minds on the Supreme Court. Congress has become overrun with people who have made their positions a life job. And you have individuals there that are too old to serve because your mental capabilities, no matter what you think, as you grow older, diminish. You have individuals that have been there for 20, 30, even 40 years serving. You need to have term limits, and you need to define an age limit. I know it's age discrimination, but it's real, because when you're in Congress, you're not playing games. You're controlling the country, and it is the strongest country in the world. You must be able to elect the best to your Congress. And you have some people in Congress that are definitely not the best.
What concerns you the most about the future of the United States?
The weapons that the enemies of our country has. You have people that are running these countries that if they thought they could get away with it, they would do a first strike against the United States. I would be very, very worried about North Korea, because there you have a lunatic. In Russia, Putin has developmental problems. So you must support opposition in the countries where you have such strong enemies. Until you take an active role in controlling the economies of your enemies, working with opposition, doing what you need to do to create a more friendly environment, then you are not doing all you could be doing.
Do you have a final message for us?
Yes, the United States is still the greatest country in the world. There are many that are trying to overthrow it. You have individuals inside your country that are trying to weaken it. You have people that are supporting foreign countries that are your enemies within your government. You must eliminate anyone that is not truly beside the country, the Constitution, and the Declaration that we introduced to the country. Anyone who does not support a democracy should not hold political office. It is that simple. Now, sadly, the people are being led by propaganda from individuals who are saying all these freebies will be coming to them if you elect me. But you must choose wisely in your political world. It's a difficult time. So thank you so much for hearing my few words. I know my friends here are waiting to speak. So thank you and goodbye.
Next, we'll be speaking with the spirit of General George Patton, the famous general of World War II. General Patton, what do you think of our military as it exists today?
I almost used a bad word. The current military has been weakened by many of your previous presidents. What Obama and Biden did to the military is a disgrace. And now you're paying the price. You have a weapons shortage, which is very real. You have forces that are being deployed for great periods of time. You have more enemies than you could ever fight at one time. And you're using outdated equipment and outdated techniques. But besides that, everything's great.
So what do you think is the future of the military?
I think that there truly are some leaders that are catching on. They realize that all that political correctness crap was terrible and weakened the military. You can see many of the young men now want to join the military. You need to offer them good careers. You need to offer them the opportunity for advancement. And I think that they're making moves in that direction. But you must change your thinking. The war in Ukraine has shown you great developments. The Ukrainians are incredible with what they have accomplished with very little. You must turn to the modern techniques, drone warfare, lasers, all of the things that you need to be better than anybody else. You must purge the military and your government of anybody that is spying for your enemies. You have people that are giving them information, and you're acting like jerks by allowing China, for instance, to buy property next to your military bases. How stupid can you be? They could put drones on those properties and wipe out our entire bomber fleet. You got to be smart. You've got to think about what is taking place, and you have got to do what you need to do to control the environment where you can protect the military, have it grow technologically, and let it advance towards the modern techniques that they need to fight the war.
Of all the decisions you made during World War II, which one do you believe had the greatest effect on the Allied victory? And which decision would you change if you could?
If I could change one, I would not have slapped a soldier. I should have been more understanding, but I was very hardcore, to say the least. And when I did that, I aroused the nation in the wrong way, and it hurt me because I was sidelined from much of the early action. The thing that I did that I think had the greatest impact was when I rescued the 101st. I basically walked on water to get my Third Army to save them from the Battle of the Bulge. I think what I did proved to the Germans that they had no chance. So I think my actions by doing what I did during the Battle of the Bulge were probably the best thing that I did during the war.
What message would you have for President Trump concerning the military?
I would tell him to watch his back, that there are many in the military that would love to go back to this political correctness. It almost destroyed the military. You can imagine how I would have reacted if the president wanted to try to do all the military correctness and politeness. You have got to make a killing machine of your army. Sadly, that is what it's there for, and that is what it must become. I would tell the president, and I think he is doing his best in this regard, that he has to rebuild the military, make it a fighting machine, and make it so powerful with technologies that no one would dare to attack us. Today, you have Iran making an ass of us. There's no other way to describe it. He should finish the job when he starts it. When you start something, it must be finished. He has allowed them to regain strength, to let Russia come in and help them to rebuild. And he really does not know whether they have an atomic weapon or not. So he has a mess over there. And the only way he's going to control it is to end it. If you remember, what I wanted to do at the end of World War II was to continue and destroy Russia. Nobody else wanted to do that. But look how many people died because we didn't. So many of my ideas were a bit aggressive. But the president has got to be very, very aggressive. He has got to do what he needs to do to finish the damn war and get out of there and have a new regime come in that is friendly. If he can bring a friendly regime in to Iran, it will destroy Russia, and that is your ultimate goal. It will also harm China. It will weaken them. You must do everything that you can do to weaken your enemies, or they will weaken you.
So you really just answered the next question about how you would handle the war with Iran. Is there anything else that you want to add to that?
I'd bomb the shit out of them.
Simply.
Yes.
What did the war teach you about God, death, and the human soul?
My life was in the military. I saw things in World War I. I saw things in World War II. It is very difficult to send your men into a position where you know a large number of them are going to be killed. But we had to make decisions that were very brutal. To win a war, you must kill more of your enemy than your enemy can kill of you. That is a simple way of stating what victory is. Until the president decides that he is going to kill more of the Iranian military than they can keep propping up, he's going to have problems. You must do what you have to do. I had a very strong faith in God, and I knew that even though these boys were being killed, their souls were going to heaven. I never realized how incredible heaven really was, but I truly believed. And by truly believing, I could make the decisions I had to make. But war never changed my belief in God. I always understood that there was always a master general in the sky, and that was not going to change just because I had to make the decisions that I had to make. If I did not make those decisions, many more would have died.
In this age of nuclear weapons, how would you handle China and Russia?
Russia, you will defeat Russia if you can defeat Iran. So I would go all in on Iran to get rid of them. Work with the Israelis. Their Mossad is outstanding. Turn them loose to do the assassinations necessary in Iran. China, I would destroy them economically. Yes, it would be inflationary for the people here in this country because they rely on these cheap goods. But I would start a publicity campaign so that everybody understood what was at stake. If the American people understand, they'll make sacrifices. His problem with going into Iran when he did was he didn't sell it. He should have done a better job of making the people understand the risk of a nuclear armed Iran. So with China, he's got to convince the people to stop buying the Chinese products. And many people rely on them. And many people have no choice. I truly understand. You have to get inflation under control so people have a better standard of living so that they don't have to rely on those cheap products. But I would beat China economically. If you weaken them enough there, you will not have to worry about them.
Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. War is an absolutely terrible thing and should be avoided at all costs. But when war comes, you have to go all in. You have to win it, because if you don't win it, the other side will. You must be so strong that nobody dares to take on your Army, your Navy, and your Air Force. You have to be advanced today technologically. We knew what we were doing in World War II, but we didn't have the incredible weapons that are available today. You have to advance to the laser weapons, to whatever you need to be stronger than anybody else in the world. So it is not a time that the people can sit back and lay in their hammocks. Everyone must support the government, and everyone must support your military. You have to remove the individuals in this country that are trying to bring down the government and the military. Yes, there are problems with the Constitution in some of those areas. But if the people are too stupid to remove the individuals from government that are trying to destroy them, you have to do something. So maybe my attitudes are a little old-fashioned, but that is what I believe. So thank you once again for allowing me to speak and bring you my opinions. I always appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, General Patton. And now we turn to President Lincoln. Thank you for joining us today, President Lincoln. President Lincoln, what is your opinion of the United States today?
My opinion is that it is still the greatest country in the world, that there's nowhere in the world that truly has the opportunity for advancement and the individual freedoms that the United States represent. But I also realize that there are vast problems. The national debt is growing too fast. The Congress cannot cooperate and get what is best for the people. The hatreds that are in the Congress today, I think, rival some of the hatreds that were in Congress in my time. And it was a very difficult time because of slavery when I was in politics. So the country is still the best, but it definitely have problems that must be addressed.
Do you see any similarities in the United States of the early 1800s and the United States of today?
Yes, actually I do. The hatreds of Congress are very similar. Slavery tore apart the country. There were duels fought between congressmen. There were fistfights. There were true hatreds in the 1800s over the issue of slavery. Now, today, slavery is not an issue. There are still places that resent individuals of different skin color, but basically, all individuals have the same opportunities in this country now.
What would you say about...
Go
ahead.
No, you have to overlook your differences and cooperate. It was impossible in my time. It is still possible today. At least you haven't reached a point where you have fistfights. But you have many people that are pushing different political beliefs. Socialism and communism are entering your government, and that has to be stopped. That will destroy the country if it's allowed to grow and fester.
What would you say about political division, racial equality, democracy, the responsibility Americans have to preserve the nation for future generations?
I would say that all of those can be problems, but I would also say that all of those are being addressed. Racial equality, there have been great leaders, Martin Luther King, many others, that bring around racial equality. You have areas of the country where people of different skin colors have many elected officials. There are still areas where people disagree. You have a lot of people now that are disagreeing with members of the Jewish faith because they are looking at what took place in their home country and not truly understanding what is taking place. Israel is fighting for its existence, and there are people here that are representing individuals that would rather destroy the entire country. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. That is a fact. There are individuals that are trying to undermine the country because they feel that they can gain personal power and financial wealth by doing it. Because there are individuals in foreign countries that will support anyone that wants to try to weaken our government. China, for instance, they are spending vast amounts of money propagandizing the American people. They're telling them that they do not want to have these great computer centers. Their money is what is leading many states and areas not to allow these great computer areas or facilities that will help advance and strengthen the country. So today, you must be very much more aware of who your friends are and who is trying to destroy you.
How would you handle the foreign policy of the United States today?
I would clearly define who my enemies are. And I would not attempt to attack them militarily, but I would lay a plan to attempt to weaken them economically. I would rely upon my intelligence service to tell me where the greatest dangers were. I would totally try to isolate North Korea. With Russia and North Korea becoming more friendly, I would put more sanctions. I would support Ukraine, and I would give them the weapons that they need to destroy the economy of Russia. So you have got to react. You've got to do what is needed to protect the country today.
So how would you handle the war in Iran?
I would work closely with Israel, and I would work with them militarily. As President Trump has attempted to use diplomacy, I tried to use diplomacy in my time, and because of slavery, it didn't work. Because of the religious fragmentation of the mullahs in Iran, you are dealing with individuals that will never stop. There's a huge difference when you are dealing with religious, shall we say, fanatics, than when you're dealing with politicians who understand compromise. So there is only one way that Iran is going to be controlled or even be able to work with in the future, and that is to destroy the leadership and make sure that when that leadership is destroyed, that people take over that country and make it the beautiful, economically vibrant country it was 60, 70 years ago. Iran has great wealth. You may have to destroy the entire oil industry to get rid of the leadership, but you must go reinvest, you must rebuild, and make sure that the individuals in the future are people you can work with economically and politically.
What is your opinion of how President Trump is running the country today?
He is doing some good things, and he is doing some bad things. He is spending vast sums of money and increasing the national debt. His tariffs have a bad economic effect by causing inflation. He attempted militarily, and I think he was misled in Iran. I think he thought that he could end it very quickly, but he underestimated the fanaticism of the political leaders, the religious leaders in that country. They are never going to stop. They will never give up power. They will kill as many of their own people as if they have to. But that, sadly, is a situation of kill or be killed. So he should have finished what he started. He had them weakened in the first attacks and bombings. They've been able to rebuild with Russia's help, with China's help, and if you're not careful, you'll see North Korea in there helping them. So time only works to the advantage of Iran and lets them rebuild and strengthen. Yes, it gives the United States time to rebuild their weapons, but mistakes were made in the past, and only the leadership understands how many weapons we have to work with, because you must maintain the ability to fight a war should China decide to invade or Russia truly decide to invade our allies. So it is an incredibly difficult time for him, and it is more difficult every day.
There are historical accounts of dreams and unusual experiences associated with you, including shortly before your assassination. What actually happened, and how do you interpret these experiences?
I definitely had psychic abilities. Spirits would come to me in dreams, and I did see the future. Keep in mind, when you're in heaven, you can see the future and you can see the past at times, depending on the realm that you're in. So there were times in my dreams that I could, shall we say, pierce the dimension of time and see events in the future, and I would see events of the past. I never really knew if it was true or not. So I ignored things that I should not have ignored, and it cost me my life.
Do you have any final message for us?
Yes, I want to reiterate what my friend said. The United States is the greatest country in the world. Our government must do everything necessary to protect it. The government is the custodian of the country. If you allow communism, socialism, radicalism to take over the government, it will take over the country, and the country will then fail. So it's very simple. Preserve the democracy and the rights of the country, maintain its strength, and all will be well.
Thank you, President Lincoln. Next, we'll speak with the spirit of Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States. President Reagan, thank you for joining us. What is your opinion of the United States today?
Well, I totally agree with all three of that came before me tonight, that it is the greatest country. It has problems. It had problems when I took over, and it has problems today that are much different from when I was governing the country. I had to deal with the Soviet Union, and they were weakening, and I was blessed to be able to have Gorbachev work with me, and we started to cooperate. So it was truly through equal cooperation. He realized that that Russia had problems, and he was trying to correct them, but there was no way. The years that had gone before had created problems that could not be solved. So this is the greatest country. If you draw away from democracy, you will draw away from personal freedoms. And when you draw away from personal freedoms, your country will fail.
Do you think you should have handled Iran any differently?
Yes, I should have been more strong towards them. I honestly thought they were going to fail. I was being told that they were weakened, that they were not going to be able to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish in the long run. But I should have realized that I was dealing with shall we say, a different breed of cat. the leaders were fanatical, and they would do anything to preserve what they were trying to obtain. They were getting stronger. They gave up the prisoners the day that I was named president, because I had sent messages to them that they were going to be very sorry if they did not. And since they had done that, I thought that was a weakening, and it possibly would open the door for negotiation and we'd be able to do a better job with them. But I should have weakened them economically. I'm not saying that I perhaps should have gone in with the military, even though maybe that was the only answer I had. But they could have been weakened economically at that point, and I did not act rapidly enough in that area.
How would you handle the war in Iran?
I would finish it. They're giving President Trump actually no choice. He's trying to negotiate with them, and they're making a fool of him. The world understands you cannot talk to these people. I think he is now truly starting to understand it as well. But he has military limitations. The reality is that we have, between the war in Ukraine and the weapons that we've used in Iran so far, that we've gone through a lot of our strategic stockpile of weapons. The problem is that enough weapons weren't prepared in the past. Biden obviously had no forethought in what was taking place. He should have gone out of his way to build as many weapons as he could build. He was giving them away and not replacing them. It takes time. You have to build the facilities to increase production, and it's not going to happen overnight. So there's going to be a period of time in the next couple of years where we are weakened, and hopefully China is weakened enough as well that they will not take advantage of it. But the next couple of years represents a great opportunity for China.
Do you think President Trump is handling the war in Iran properly?
I think he did in the beginning, but when he stopped, I think he made a huge mistake. The political pressure was getting to him, and the countries were whining about the price of oil. He should have just accepted the problem and ended it in a short period of time. Iran was weakened very badly when he was fighting in cooperation with Israel. Israel is an incredibly strong country, and the United States and Israel together, they were destroying them. Another couple of weeks and they would have had nothing left. They should have released Mossad to assassinate more of the leaders. These political leaders are religious leaders, and they're not going to change their mind. They will lie to you to get what they feel they need to do to preserve what they have. So really the president has no long-term answer but one. He has two. He can admit defeat or he can win it. Sadly, those are the only two choices he now has.
What is your opinion of how President Trump is guiding the country?
I think that he's using tariffs too much because it's, in the long run, it's going to have a larger effect on the inflation. And as long as the inflation is high, the Fed can't lower the interest rates that you need to truly have a booming economy. The AI revolution is saving the country because it is generating so much business, so much progress. There's going to be a time that you're going to see jobs decrease because of it. So the government should be doing job training and getting people ready that are going to be taken by the robotics and everything that will be coming. So you're going to see an immense change in the way things are done in this country because of AI. And it is only because the corporate earnings are strong through AI that everything is booming and going. The stock market is strong, but it can be weakened very easily. If you see the Fed having to step in and raise the interest rate, you're going to see the economy take a hit because the market will come down and businesses will slow. So he needs to be very aware of the implications of what he's doing.
What concerns you the most about the future of the United States?
There are several things. The national debt greatly there's no way this is going to stop now with needs to build more weapons and everything that is taking place, the wars that we're fighting. But the national debt, we pay the obligation, the interest on that debt, and it is huge. Those are dollars that could be going towards other things. The undercurrent of individuals trying to destroy the country bothers me greatly. You have basically a communist mayor in New York City. You have a communist that's going to run for the Senate. You have politicians that are socialists. If you allow these people to keep being elected, they will undermine the country and create problems that you have not ever thought of. The two political parties need to join and get rid of the radicals. There are far-right people in the Republican Party, and there are people in the Democratic Party that are very dangerous. Both parties should not agree to allow these individuals to run on party tickets. Let them run as independents. Let them run as socialists, as communists. But you should keep them off the political parties for the strength of the country. And the two parties must learn to work together in Congress. If you cannot get cooperation between the houses and the political party of Congress, you've got real problems.
Of everything you accomplished as president, what do you believe had the greatest lasting impact on America, and what decisions do you regret the most?
The downfall of the Soviet Union, that had the greatest impact on the world, freed the most people. That, I think, was my greatest accomplishment. And I'm sorry that I didn't do more against Iran, because I allowed that cancer to grow. There were things I could have done to slow the growth of the cancer. And now look what we're facing. We're at war with them. So I think that would be the high point and the low point for me.
Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. I want everybody that listens to this message to understand that their personal freedoms are under attack. If you allow socialist candidates, communist candidates, radical candidates to be elected, then you will pay the consequences, because it is always the people that pay the consequences when things go astray in government. Elect individuals that love the country. If you hear them talking about disparagingly about our country, don't consider even talking about them. Work against them. Make sure that the best candidates are elected. All politicians, there will be times they're not going to tell you the truth. But look at their records. These people today have well-recorded social media histories. You can look and see how they've talked through the years. They're going to change. Look at what they said 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Often in their youth, they'll speak the truth. And sometimes the truth is what should make sure that they're not elected. So educate yourself on everyone that is running for political office. Democrat, Republican, pick the best. You need a two-party system, and that two-party system needs to cooperate. If you elect the idiots on either party, things are not going to improve for you. So thank you so much. I always enjoy the opportunities when I'm given to me. Keep America strong. That is the goal of everyone that is living in this country. Thank you. Okay. You can tell they got strong wills, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I wish some of our politicians would listen to our shows once in a while. I think there'd be a lot they could learn.
Especially cooperation.
That's the biggest thing. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Elena, thank you once again. I'm going to say good night, and then I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll be back again next week. So thank you. Goodbye. Okay, folks. Friday nights are special. You can learn a lot. I learn a lot every time we do this because I have no idea. I help make up the questions, but believe me, I have no idea what answers are coming. So thank you so much. Sunday morning, we will be live with a Sunday sermon at 11 o'clock Eastern. Wednesdays, 11 o'clock Eastern, I bring you a channeled message from Jesus. And on Friday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern, here we are in Pathways to Knowledge. So thank you so much. Take time to subscribe if you haven't. Please tell others of our shows, and we will continue to do the best we can to bring you information that will help lead you through your darkest times. Goodbye, and thank you so much for listening.